Welcome to the city, Mastermind City. Hi, I'm Fay Chapel.
And I'm Stacy Maynard. Join us for a vibrant, inspiring, and uplifting talk as we focus on how you can make a lasting impact on a global scale. Because the truth is, we're here because we want you to win.
So are you ready to surround yourself with success? Because you're in the right place. Welcome to the city. So one of these things is not like the other. One of these things just doesn't belong. I have a sweater on and I'm freezing. It is 1,000,000 degrees below zero in here.
It's like a tropical room. It's beautiful. I'm sweating. I have a tank top on. We're good.
It's so bad. All I wanted to do is light a fire, but can't.
Because I'll sweat. It's okay. Yeah, the farm is looking really good. There's furniture finally.
Furniture,
so
yeah, you can sit.
A lot of time spent painting, getting things ready, prepping, all of that kind of stuff. But I came in Monday and there's like living room furniture. So it's like we can sit on a couch and like watch TV. There's a big dining room table.
And we're almost done. You'll see the studio soon. We actually are hightailing it out of here after this to go pick up light. And, we've been going everywhere because nobody's in stock, as you all know.
It's crazy. Even IKEA, who typically always has everything in stock, really hard time getting stuff, getting material, people wanting to order cars. It's taking like 3 years, like crazy.
We still don't have our internet dish from Elon. He hasn't
come on, Elon.
So, it said mid to late 2021. Well I think we're in
coming to the end of October. So I'm pretty sure we're going to get there.
So hopefully soon. It's been a bit of a challenge, but anyway.
Absolutely. Yeah. So yesterday I was talking to a girl and she was telling me about her podcast. Typical conversation in my life, but interesting. So she found this girl on Instagram and she loves her Instagram feed. She loves her Instagram videos. She has a big following. She liked what she said. Her Instagram posts, really well scripted. Videos look great. She's like on point with what she's saying, very specific, really great persona on video. So she reaches out because their philosophies match. And that's a really good practice if you want to find guests. Like, who are you following on Instagram? Like, can you, would you invite them onto your show? Or, even to have a collaborative video conversation, whatever the case may be. So she does that. She reaches out to this girl on Instagram and the girl says, yes. Great.
Cool.
Yeah, really good. So you know what happened?
What happened?
The girl wasn't scripted.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. I was like, I bet you that's what happened.
Because what she found out was that if she doesn't have the questions in advance and she can't not only write the answers to the questions, she needs to memorize. Yeah. Because on her videos, what she found out in the conversation afterwards was that she memorizes all of her scripts.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Like a lot of the people that are out there, and we teach the polar opposite, right? We teach you no notes, no nothing, just go out there and talk because you should know your shit. Yeah, there's a lot of people out there that I was going to say, it's kind of like the same when you see an actor that you love on the screen and you love all their roles, and then you see them actually talk on a talk show and you're so disappointed because they're not at all what you expected them to be. It's the same thing. So, I agree. You can have a huge following and make a lot of money, when you're very scripted and everything online. But if you're going to do that, which is absolutely fine if that's your thing, if you're going to do that, don't be a guest anywhere. Right?
Well, because it was interesting because she goes, so I would ask a question. And in a typical world, if I had you on the show and I asked you a question, you'd be able to deliver the information, the answer in a very concise and authentic way. But she couldn't.
No.
She stumbled over her words. She started looking at things online. She started looking at her own social media feed. What have I said before? And she said it was literally the most difficult interview. And we kind of had a conversation about, like, does that mean she's not authentic?
Right.
Does that mean that you can't have a conversation with her outside of her scripted social media? What would she do if we went to a coffee shop?
Right.
Like if we were just sitting at a restaurant and said, hey, like, what do you do? Or can you tell me more about this? Or what are your feelings on that? She wouldn't be able to do it. So she said, like, the interview was so disjointed
that you couldn't even
it's not even usable.
Well, I think there's a lesson there too for you guys who use social media managers, because we do. Here's the thing: our social media manager, who is fabulous, all she does is she takes our stuff and makes it look better.
We love her.
So she even has clients that don't send her anything. So what she does is go back and watches their videos and takes clips out of it, takes quotes, whatever they're talking about, and uses them. So that is their authentic stuff, right? Like, so she doesn't make stuff up. She just makes our stuff look better.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And
but that's what social media managers should do.
Right. But this girl's, I assume, theirs makes stuff up. And because she doesn't know what's on her feed.
That's a problem.
That's a problem. If she doesn't know what she said, like, listen, everything you see on our feed, that's what we said. It just looks way prettier than if we had posted it.
But like, I can't imagine being in a world where, okay, so I want to talk about loyalty. Do I need to then, okay, so I write it. Maybe somebody else writes it. Maybe there's a ghostwriter, whatever the case may be. And then you end up memorizing. So, okay, so you can memorize a script, and blogs are great. You can people can ghost write. But if you don't know what's on your site, that's a little bit of a problem. Yeah. So I can just imagine that somebody wrote her script. She memorized it like she's an actress. So funny that you brought that up. She memorized it like she's an actress. And then does it just go out of your head?
Yeah. It does.
I don't understand how that works.
I think but if you like good actors, I can still remember when you see them on interviews, really good actors, somebody will say, I love those lines that you said in the movie 20 years ago, and they can still recite them. Like really good ones remember it. Yeah. But I guess there are people that just remember and it goes, listen, I'm more like remember and goes like, but I know my stuff. So I can memorize things that I need to for tests and things for school. But I don't care about knowing it. I care about passing. But
that's different.
Yeah, it's totally different. But I mean, if it's my stuff, I know my stuff. So it's not like, you can't like catch me on my stuff.
Well, and it's different from, did you say this exactly the same way every single time?
No, you don't.
No, and that's authentic. Like if you have a topic and you're telling somebody about it on one interview, and then you're on another interview and you say it slightly differently,
which is how you should do.
Right. Because then, number one, that it's authentic, know, it's you, the information is valid. It's coming from a place of knowing versus memorizing. I was just really disappointed to hear that because it's not something I hear very often.
No.
And I just feel like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah,
the fact that you can't go on an interview.
Well, I
don't understand that.
I would say a little bit of the fault. Sorry, whoever your podcast host is. A little bit of fault is to your podcast host who was blinded by the feed. Maybe your podcast host
blinded by the lights.
See, that's what you are. So I think she should have gone and said, hey, don't even ask her, just gone on to and Googled her and found her on another podcast to see if you can tell if somebody's reading or not. So just because, I mean, we have people that, put in applications to be speakers at one of our events, and we always do our due diligence and see what they actually speak like. So we want to see them in a setting of speaking to a crowd, not in a rehearsed YouTube video, because very different. And the interesting thing about that, can I go like kind of the reverse? I know someone who is really good on their feet and really good at events, and is terrible when they are on YouTube or on a video online and they try to script themselves.
Really? So that's an interesting.
Yeah. So like they think they think they're supposed to be perfect on their video that they do, and they come across as incredibly boring because it's rehearsed.
Oh yeah, I guess you wouldn't think about that as opposed to, the person who's like the video camera, what do you think about this? I like that better though. Yeah.
I'm not so good. I'm not good at rehearsed either. Like I can't. I just can't do it. So but if you see, like I said, if you see that person on a stage, they're really great and engaging, and they're very good at facilitating and all of that stuff. But put them on a video where they are trying to be scripted and they're just off.
Well, I had a situation where somebody applied to be on my podcast, and she wouldn't come on unless I gave her questions ahead of time because she needed to script the answers.
Right.
So I just said no.
Well,
Like, it's not what I do. If you can't answer the questions on the fly and have a conversation about you, your business, and your topic, I don't think you should be on my show.
and I had the opposite. I had somebody who wanted me on their podcast, and they said, "Can you send me questions?" And I said, "No. What do you want to talk about?" And they were like, "Well, don't you have set questions that you answer?" And I was like, "No, I don't have questions." So, but that host was not comfortable unless they read the questions.
Oh, see, no, that's there. Now there's another, that's
Right?
another angle. I didn't even think about that one.
And there's two people I know that did that. And so one of them, you could tell we did the podcast, and I led the entire podcast because she didn't know how to ask a question that wasn't scripted. So
well, that person shouldn't be a podcast host.
Right, but that's what they did. And you've been a guest on people that read the same questions to you as they do everybody else. I don't like that.
I don't like that either. Like, there's one girl that I know, I can't remember what she talks about, but what she does is at the end of her show, so she has a full conversation with her guest, questions are sort of random based on the conversation, which I like because that's how the conversation leads, right? She's paying attention to what they're saying. She's then asking a follow-up question, more information. But at the very end, she just asks one question that's the same question she asked everybody. So she goes, I asked this to everybody, and she asks that same question and then the answer, and then she ends the show. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, but I'm okay with it, but keep going.
Yeah. But what I don't like is these are the questions I ask all my guests, because that becomes very boring, because it's basically the same conversation with every episode. Right. So to me, that happy medium would be ask a question.
Well, the only thing here's what I don't like about the end question. Okay. So I get what you're saying. Like, everyone asks, this is their thing. They ask everyone.
They've got their hook or whatever.
If the question doesn't really fit in what you're talking about, it seems really weird. And that happened to me.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, that's just like, I was like, I don't even know how to answer that. Like, it was just such a stupid question in what we were talking about.
But that's up to the podcast host to make sure the conversation flows in a way that conversation then fits into the conversation.
That's why you need to have podcast training, because you can't just go and think that you can talk. It's not easy to interview somebody. Interviewing skills is a very, very unique talent. You can learn it, and you can learn to be really good. And we're actually going to have a course on that, aren't we? Yeah. You're going to learn to be really good at interviewing,
because it's important. I think interview skills are becoming more and more popular and more needed, because the challenge is that people want to have guests on their show, and it's an incredible way to borrow authority from other people, to have them on your show and bring that expertise. And we teach it. It's great. We encourage it. However, if you don't know how to interview, I don't know. Then don't. Exactly. Then have a solo.
I keep saying that to people. If you don't know how to do it, don't until you know how to do it. Not like there's a difference between, you practice till you get good. Okay, just don't practice live.
Yeah.
Right? Like, practice with your friends, practice with your family, practice with an imaginary person sitting beside you. It doesn't matter, but start getting comfortable, like practice on the video camera so that you can see yourself. Yeah. But, so we teach podcasting in GIA. Stacy does a whole pillar training. It's a standalone. You'll know how to be a certified podcaster. But then on top of that, as we go into GIX, which is our mastermind, you'll learn not only to be a great interview, but to be a great interviewer.
Yes, because there's a difference between being an interviewee, which means you know your stuff, and that's where the speaker training, you like how bright I am now? That's where the speaker training comes into play, right? Knowing your stuff, understanding, and that's why it's important to know what you're saying and how to say it.
Then that's if you're good at, so the speaking piece, if you're good at it and you're good at your messaging and you know what you're doing, when you get on podcasts like I did, where the interviewer's story is terrible, you can just totally, run that podcast, and they will appreciate it at the end because they don't know what they're doing. So whenever I get onto summits, like sometimes I'm on summits and there's 6 people talking and they're all like, you can tell it's going down. It's boring. So
it's going downhill fast. You're like, okay, recover.
So I just jump in and start talking, and I know where to lead it, because you know that you have to have that skill base, and anyone can learn it. It's not that hard. It's just understanding what you need to talk about without having to memorize or use notes or all that stuff. So
yeah, exactly. And then being an interviewer, you know how to lead the conversation. But I think the best interviewers, again, are ones that do not have their scripted list of questions. They're paying attention and being, in the moment with their guest, but also not only knowing what questions to ask because you're listening to what they're saying, but you know how to lead the conversation and you know how far to take a particular topic based on your guest. Like there's a whole skill and you're very good. I don't consider myself a very good interviewer. I will admit. However, I did do a segment recently where I actually interviewed one of my podcast clients. So they are an interview style podcast, but they wanted to be interviewed and they didn't know how to find the person that they wanted to interview them. So they asked me, they're like, well, you know our show, you know us. Why don't you? And actually at the end, they were like, wow, you're a really good interviewer. We didn't expect you to take the conversation in that direction. We didn't expect you to ask those kind of questions, but it was really fantastic. So even though I don't consider myself a fantastic interviewer, they did.
Well,
so that was kind of cool.
Like the only thing you have to do is, as you said, be in the moment. It's very like mindfulness, right? You just have to be present and understand and watch for the cues, because a good interviewer, someone will say something and a good interviewer will pick up that cue and go, let's go in that direction. That's all it is. And, you're not this is a good way for you to test yourself. If your kids say, Mom, are you listening to me when they're talking to you? If they say that, it means you don't really listen to them. You're not in that moment. You like nod your head and go, Now we're all guilty. But
you know what? Sometimes it doesn't look like my 17-year-old's in the moment and listening to me. And I ask him if he's listening, he can recite word for word what I said.
Yes.
So it's kind of irritating.
They can. They absolutely can. It's a clue. Like if people say, are you listening to me? Did you hear what I say? If they say that to you on a regular basis, it's probably because you're not in the moment. Yeah, right. You're not really paying attention. And an interviewer. So think about it this way. Like if you're doing an interview, you're not thinking about anything else. Yeah. And a good interviewer is not running their own tech. Sorry.
No, it's true.
They're not running their own tech. They're not doing any of that because they're focused on their guest and they're not worried about, who's watching. Is the tech okay? Is the lighting good? You do that when you're setting up, or you have a producer.
Kind of like our TikTok challenge that we're going to do. We're going to learn and show and
we're not doing anything in advance.
Yeah. So we're going to grow and do along with you, because I think that's important to be part of the group.
So let's talk about important stuff now.
Okay. Wasn't important.
We're watching the season premiere of The Bachelorette. So we work hard.
We do work hard.
But we also play hard. And our play hard is wine in The Bachelorette.
Oh my God, it was so fun last night. Okay, what did you learn? Important stuff. What did you learn last night?
Don't take your notes. Know your stuff. And don't take your
Oh my
notes.
God, that is such a good segue. I didn't even think about that. So tell them what happened.
So this was the opener where all the bachelors show up. Or whatever, and it's opening night. She has a cocktail party, and the two hosts were in other people, like in all the boys' rooms, and they found this guy who had mega notes of like how to look like you're not the villain, how to be interested, what to say to
get more screen time,
all this stuff. And he had these big, huge thing of files of notes. And then these girls found it. And then they told the Bachelorette, and she went and saw the notes and said, that's disgusting. You're obviously not only here to get screen time. And so kicked him out. And all I kept thinking of is, and we said it out loud. I was like, why are you bringing notes? Like, why do you read them before you got there? Like, you don't know those things? And read them on the plane and throw them out. Like, what do you need these notes for?
Or if you really, really, really need them, I'm going to go with put them on your phone in a password protected file.
But he had these masses of things, and like
crazy.
It was silly because on one hand, you're thinking, okay, he wanted screen time, and a lot of these guys go on it for that. But there could literally be somebody that said he wanted to like read the notes as he was there because he knew he'd have a lot of time on his own in the room. I get it. But look at the optics of what that looks like, right? So you can't go back and get out of that. So number one, it's very important to watch The Bachelor because you learn all this stuff, right?
You learn what happens when you have notes.
Yeah. So that was interesting. And then my second piece, because okay, we love the Bachelorette, but you know why? Because we just like to make fun of everyone.
It was a lot of fun.
It is just like, and and we were like, we're not really high on any of the guys. Sorry, Michelle.
No, I feel bad for you. Yeah,
but she likes them.
Yeah, it was actually quite interesting because, and this is again, you have to get to know someone. We clearly do not know Michelle, so good for you. So we would sit there and be like, not our type, and our type is very different,
totally different,
totally. But a guy would come in and be like, didn't like the way he came in, didn't like his intro, whatever he said, like, oh, like. Take the bus and just like go home. Like we were like harsh. And then she was like,
oh, I love him.
Dear love him.
So if we were ever single and we were at a bar, we would have no problem, no conflicts.
No,
we have
at
totally
all.
Opposite tastes.
And apparently if we're at a bar with Michelle, great, you can have all the rest because it was not even close to our taste. So it was interesting. So
it was interesting,
different people's perspectives.
But it was like, it like on that side is like how you prepare and how you go into something is really, like a lot of them try to make a first impression, and like there was a couple of people that made first impressions that we were like, oh my god, that's really bad. And then all the three hosts, like the two hosts and Michelle, were like, that was so unique and great.
So there's something that we missed. For sure.
So you don't know what other people are going to think, anything really. Like you might think something's really funny, just like wait till you see our TikToks, because we do have the same kind of sense of humor. So you might not like it.
It might be good, might be bad. We're gonna go for it.
And then the other thing,
but also know your audience, right? Yeah. That goes back to knowing your audience. So good for the guys because they obviously made an impression on the person they needed to make an impression on.
Yeah, we wouldn't have. We would have got kicked off.
Absolutely. But if they were trying to make an impression on us, I would hope that they would do their research and know that wouldn't work.
Like, don't come with your head sticking out of a table in a
salad.
It's very weird.
It was very weird, but they all liked it. And he stayed in the table.
They liked him.
And they loved him. And the girl thought that was so interesting. But that goes back to, if we don't like something, we might not be your audience. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Michelle was the audience and she loved it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So if you don't like what we're talking about, it's okay.
That's okay. I think we would have had like maybe 3 bachelorettes left after we were really harsh last night.
So the other thing I just wanted to mention.
Okay.
Because, it's very important to talk about non-business stuff. Even though it ends up Bachelorette becomes business. So as we were watching this, and some of it was a little bit boring, we were talking about streaming and some of the shows we watched.
Bachelorette becomes business.
And so I was talking about some of the shows, and then I said how my son filled me in, because I used to watch Blacklist when it came on real TV, not streaming. And I missed the last 2 years or so, 2-3 seasons. So my son, when we were driving to hockey, literally went through the seasons and caught me up. And then he told me the season finale the last episode, and I almost fell out of the car.
Can you imagine if I was driving the way I reacted?
I say to Stacy, because I know she's a Blacklist fan, and I said, what did you think of, the finale? And she didn't remember it.
I can't remember.
And if any of you watched Blacklist, spoiler alert, it was huge, because the reason I'm talking about it, not because she forgot.
No, and my reaction was like, I spent hours last night, like reading every article on the finale, because it somehow has left my brain. And I don't know how it's left my brain. So I've seen it.
It's like, what, 9 seasons or 8 seasons?
It's 8, and they're actually coming out with a 9th.
And when he told me, so this whole part, and then the lead girl didn't know who her mom was, and Reddington, the main character, everyone thought he was the dad. And at every single opportunity, he would say, "I'm not your father," right? Yeah. Sounds like Darth Vader or something. I am your father. I am not your father. But, or maybe Maury Povich. You are not the father. Really good. But what's interesting is it ends up implying, didn't come out and say, but it ends up implying, no, he's not the father. He's actually the mother. He's Katerina. And then Stacy's like, well, that's no way. And then I'm like, yeah, remember the first season, he was in plastic surgery. And all along he's been saying, I'm not your father. Very clearly he said, I'm not lying. I'm not your father. And then anyway, so if that is actually the truth, which looks like what it appeared to be, like well done, writers.
Well done.
Because it isn't one of those things that poof happens at the end and they just go, oh, let's throw in this wrench. Because now, if you look back, you can actually see that it's a good plan. Now, it might not come to fruition, but it looks like it.
Couldn't even function last night because I was like literally mind blown. But then I started thinking back. So now what I have to do is go back and rewatch the end. I remember a lot of the episodes, but I don't, and I don't know why. This is like, I'm really good at remembering shows and how they ended. I don't
think you saw it.
and I'm questioning my existence. I'm questioning whether I watched it. I'm questioning the end because, and I know I would have seen it, but then I texted my husband. I'm like, do you remember? Like, did I dream that I watched it? Was it a different ending? Like, I can picture the ending, but I don't remember that. So now I have to go back and rewatch it.
But he didn't remember it either.
No.
Yeah.
So now I'm questioning whether I saw it. But that's okay. I'm going to watch it with whole different eyes.
But I was just like I said, well done, writers. And I love when you see something that like is different and unique. And really, that's what you have to do in your business. If we relate it back to business, like, be unique, do something different. We try very hard. And that's why, you come get training from us and you listen to what we're talking about in business, but we also talk about the Bachelorette, right? And just
Bachelorette, let me see, what is it? Hashtag Bachelorette business, Blacklist business.
But it's a great skill. So you don't have to be like everyone else. You want to, turn things around. Like, would that ending be appropriate for a lot of people? A lot of people will hate it. A lot of people will hate it. I love it. If that's what happens, I love it because I thought like, oh, you fooled me, and I love being fooled. It's kind of like magic tricks and all that stuff. Yep. I love it. If you can pull one over on me, congratulations, well done, because I consider myself kind of smart.
No, you're right. I'm the same way. Like, you know what? If you can really like wow me, like I'm impressed. Yeah. Like, well done. Like, good for you. Because you're right. If somebody can pull one over on me, magic tricks, I guess I'm not really into them. But that show, and especially, again, good job, writers, because again, they alluded to it literally from moment one, right? So they stuck to that throughout, because a lot of times what will happen, so interesting, I was watching, Friends. So the whole reunion, and there's lots of information that's coming out. And one of the things that the writers said was, when Monica and Chandler got together, the original script was that Monica and Joey were going to get together.
Right.
But the reaction of the audience when they put Monica and Chandler together, the audience reacted so positively, and the comments and stuff like that, they had to go back and rewrite.
Yeah.
So they based it on audience reaction. So that's one theory and that's one strategy.
Yep.
But what I like about Blacklist is that they decided to do it right from the beginning. They did it from minute one. They stuck to it.
Yeah.
They kept it going, and you didn't know until 8 seasons later.
Yeah.
Like, that's impressive.
And it still wasn't, they didn't come out and say it, but it was all implied based on, when she's dying, for spoilers, sorry, when she's dying and the flashbacks, then you see a smile on her face. And she figured it out. Right. So it was really, really, interesting. And remember, like, my kid told me the last 2 seasons, and he said, go watch the last 3 episodes because there is another season coming up.
Yeah. And I didn't think there was. It was supposed to be the series finale. So, but I like, again, going back to business, right? It's stick to your guns, like, stick to what you're doing, do your thing, find your people.
Right.
Just because, and yes, audience feedback and all of that stuff is great.
Important. We change our stuff based on feedback.
Absolutely. But you still need to stick with what you know, what you're good at,
right,
and what your core business is.
Yeah, because so many people out there, are chasing. They go, well, this didn't work. Let me try this. This didn't work. Like, it takes a long time for something to click. So you have to invest the time. It's not overnight like everyone makes you think it is. It's not overnight. You actually have to do the work, right? And so, but I see so many people, and a lot of them are, clients and things that are trying to go, well, look what this person's doing. I can do that too. Maybe you can't.
Or maybe you shouldn't.
No, if it's not your skill set, if that's not really what you do well, like, we say this over and over again, stay in your lane and stick to it and do it well. Because if you're trying to be everything, it's just not going to.
Blacklist stayed in their lane.
They stayed in their lane.
They stayed in their lane and they stuck to it. It took a while. they stuck to a stay in the lane. So
hopefully Michelle will stay in her lane when she figures out what her lane is.
We don't know what her lane is.
There's so many guys.
So yes, we had a lot of fun last night.
We did.
So we're going to now continue to work hard, play hard, and we will see you next week.
Thanks for joining us in the city.
If you're ready to make a lasting impression on a global scale, you can learn more at joingia.com. That's joingia.com.
So go there now because the world is waiting for you.